Hello. All right, we're live and we're set. This is Hank Howick from Cisco Collaboration Hank LLC, my future business that I hope to have in Ghana and Nigeria. But we got a ways to go before we get to that point. We must get our CCIE. So we're going to be continue to go over the basic dial plan, which comes from this www.ine.com website. And we're going to allow us to go through these courses. All the ones that are not unchecked, that are not green, are one got to go through. The ones that are green, I have already watched. We start off with basically dial plan fundamentals. Then we went into talking about elements of the dial plan, the dial peers, voice translation rules, traditional dial plans. That was the way that was done way back in 2011, which I was a part of at that time under AT&T. And now the new advanced elements of the dial plans, or the globalization methods, we call the new method, and that's the method that we do that goes against the traditional method. And we're now going to go into the advanced elements of dial plan part 1. This is basically an actual to a class that we could actually build a dial plan together in the router and in the switch. Unfortunately, you got to have your own ESSI, and I do have it over to my left, and I have to turn it on, but it costs money to run, and I can't afford it. And at this moment in time, WebEx is another program that I've signed up for, and so I'm going to be doing that as well. So as I plug this over here, you'll be seeing me log into WebEx. And so we first got to see if I can go to the sandbox, and let's see if it lets me in. No, it makes me sign up again. Oh, it lets me in. Oh, no. I got to relog. Oh, I'm signed in. Okay, there I am. And this was called the DevNet Simulator, and they have 55 different catalogs broken down over to the right. Boom, be quiet. Broken down into different categories. I'm in the collaboration category. And under the collaboration category, we have about 6 different labs. They could have more, but they only got 6 for us. And Cisco Emergency Responder Collaboration Call Manager 14, which is new. And then Contact Center, which goes with Call Manager for our contact center companies that have to have contact. We call them call centers. It's another word. Contact center is the same as a call center. I want to work for a call center because it's job security. And then they have WebEx, which is, of course, for some companies like Old Castle and others that want to use the WebEx. WebEx, of course, is a niche market just like Microsoft Teams. And unfortunately, Microsoft Teams runs the game. WebEx doesn't. So studying WebEx is great, but everybody ain't going to WebEx. I mean, they want to go to Teams, which is why we have Voice Bootcamp over here, which has a Teams class right there that I have access to. So I'm taking classes on WebEx, UCCE, UCCX, Genesis, Amazon, Connect, and Teams. Everybody and mama has a version. I got to master all of them in order for me to get a job if one closes, and that's kind of the world of technology. And so I've already logged into a reservation for logging into what's called the WebEx Sandbox. It ends in 4 days and so many hours. And so we click on that, and then this allows us to technically put our feedback in, but here's the lab. And we basically log in, and we basically type in our username at webex.com. It takes 8 minutes to reserve it, and then we have to log in using the portals that we got right here. Okay? And so it's a real simple method, and that's a future class. But right now, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to finish trying to get through all the dial plans, because in order to get to WebEx, you really got to have a really good understanding of the dial plan, and you got to really understand that dial plan in and of itself to be the best you can possibly be. So each of these classes are 35 minutes, 24 minutes, hour, 27 minutes, 31 minutes. And so this is good, and then we get another hour and 47 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and 19 minutes. Believe me, all this is great. This is what I really needed in my previous job. But remember, the job that I had, that lady did not even allow me to even get in that realm. They were trying to pigeonhole me into doing bullish stuff for a guy who was 60 years old. and I'm not 60, and I'm not done with my career, and I'm not at the bottom. And so I'm actually glad that I'm along with that company because I was too smart to be there, and that's the lesson I learned. And I understand the future company may do me the same way, which I will be ready to quit that one too. We're never going to stop trying to become better and better and better. So now let's go back and let's start this video. Okay? Advanced Dial Plan Fundamentals Part number 1.
Hello and welcome to INE. Today in this video, we will look at demonstration for client matter code. Now, in my previous video, we had discussed what client matter code is, where when a customer or when you want to dial to a customer and you want to bill that customer, basically your time is precious and you want to bill your customer based on the amount of time you give to your customer, we can use client matter code. So let's do a quick demonstration on client matter code. So the first thing what I would do is create codes for identifying the customer. That is done here at the call routing. So I would go to call routing and go to client matter code and create some codes. Let's in fact create 3 codes. The first code would be for personal calls. So let's say if I wanted to make personal calls, then I would dial the client matter code for personal calls. If I want to dial customer A, then I would dial a separate code. And if I want to dial customer B, then I would dial a separate code. So we will create 3 separate client matter codes, one for personal, one for customer A, and one for customer B. So let's click on add new. And again, the client matter code is a numeric value. It could be 2 digits, 3 digits, 4 digits, as many digits as you want. It doesn't need to be a specific number of digits. However, it all depends on how many customers you have. So if you just had 100 digits, you could have two digits. You can probably basically start from 1 and go all the way to 100 if you had 100 digits or 100 customers. So what I would do is I would just use any random number to identify customers. So the first one that I would make would be for personal calls. Let's give that as 123, which is for client matter code for personal. You should give a description because otherwise you would really not know that which code is for what, whether it's for what customer. You should define that. You should always give a description. Now, in fact, I see a message saying add failed. One of the required fields on the page has the same value or entry exist in the database. Remember, the client matter code has to be unique. So let's go back to, and let's do a find. Maybe we already have some client matter codes. I do have 2 codes. Let me in fact delete them. And then we will create our client matter codes. Each code has to be unique per customer. You cannot have an overlapping code for multiple customers. One code is per customer. So let's create one. So I would give 123 to identify personal calls. Let's name this CMC personal. Let's create one more for customer A. So again, add new. Let's put this as 456 for CMC for customer A. Let's create one more for customer B. Let's put this as 789, which is for customer B. So CMC customer B. So 3 client matter codes were basically created. I have 1 to 3, which is for personal calls, 456, which is for customer A, and 789 is used to identify customer B. The next thing that I would do is on my route pattern, enable the checkbox, which basically says that when I make outbound calls or when I use a specific route pattern, I must ask for client matter code. So the minute the minute you dial out and it hits the route pattern, the call manager would send back a tone asking you to provide the client matter code. And only if you successfully give the client matter code, the call would be routed out to the PSTN. So for this, what we would do is now go to route pattern. I believe I have 3 route patterns pre-configured. I have one which is for local call, I have one for national call, and I have one for international call. So I have 3 route patterns here. Let me apply this route pattern to, maybe I'll apply this to local. Let's assume that both my customers, which was customer A and customer B, they both were local customers, same city or same state. They are not national. So I would go to my local route pattern and scroll down and enable the checkbox, which is for require client matter code. You should enable this checkbox. That's really all that you need to do to force the call manager to send you back a tone and requiring a client matter code. Only if you can give the client matter code, only then your call would be routed out. However, there are a few more things that you should configure or you need to configure, because what was the whole point of client matter code? What was the whole point? The whole point of client matter code was for billing, so that the CDR can record how much time you spent or you spoke or how much time you allocated to a specific customer. The whole point is that, which is for CDR. And it's mainly for billing system. So let's say if I was a lawyer and my time is important and I need to bill my customer based on how much time I allocate to that company, in that case, I would enable CMC so that CDR can actually record the time that you speak to a specific customer. To identify the customer, we have a specific code for each customer. So as a lawyer, I may have hundreds of customers. Let's say 2 p.m. I need to talk to customer A for 30 minutes. I may talk to him for 30 minutes, or I may even talk to him for 10 minutes. Now, depending on my company policy, I may bill him 1/10 of an hour, 1/10 of an hour, which means that even if I talk to him for 2 minutes, I would bill him for 6 minutes. Or maybe I bill him at a fixed time, which is 30 minutes. Even if I talk to him for 15 minutes, I bill him for 30 minutes. So the whole point of the CMC is to allow call manager or even the CDR to record that you have spoken to customer A for an X amount of time, and at this time you spoke to him. So before we test this, there are a few more things that you should enable so that call manager can record that information. So the first thing that we would do would be you need to go to your service parameter And let's in fact go to service parameter. I would reduce the size, go to service parameter. That's the first thing you would need to do, and enable the checkbox or set the value of CDR to true. By default, it is set to false, which basically means that CDR is not enabled. Again, CDR is something which is per node. So if you have one publisher, 3 subscribers, you really have to enable it on each of your subscriber. Basically the main primary call processing agent. But again, you should enable it on all your call processing agents or devices. So I'm going to enable this on my publisher and my subscriber. Right now, my call processing node is my subscriber. So go to publisher and go to call manager. And let's search for CDR. You would see that the CDR enable flag default is false. However, I have already changed that to true. So this is by default false. You should change this to true. The CDR flag, if you click on that link, it basically says that this parameter determines whether the call detail records are generated. Valid value specified true, and default is false. There's another parameter which is CDR log calls with 0 duration flag. So this parameter enables or disables the logging of call detail records for calls that never connected or that lasted less than 1 second. So if you want, you can enable this also. So basically, if you don't do that, it's not a problem. It's just that when you make an outbound call and if the call did not get connected, CDR would not log that. But if you want all calls to be recorded, even if you make an outbound call and it did not connect, or if you spoke to him for less than a second, then also the calls would be recorded. Then you can enable this. Again, for testing of CMC, we don't really need the second one, but the first one, CDR enable flag, should be set to true. I have done that. I have in fact done it for both. Both the options have been set to true. Default was false. So this should be done for all your nodes. I have done this for publisher. And if I look at subscriber, I have also configured or enabled CDR for subscriber also. I have done that already. Again, if I search for CDR, you can see on subscriber also, I have set that value to true. So once you've done this, the next thing that you should do is, for the sake of billing, you should set up an SFTP server, so secure FTP, and ask your call manager to send the records to an FTP server. Again, that can be done by going to serviceability, and once you go to serviceability, you can define under tools, go to CDR management, and here you can configure your FTP server information. So you can click on add new and define the SFTP's IP, the username, the password, the path. You can define all those things. I have already done that. I am basically pointing to an SFTP server, which is, I believe, on my Jabber 1 PC. I have SFTP pre-configured with the username Cisco and password Cisco123. So I have already pre-configured that. So obviously you require SFTP to be enabled, creating a user account, go back to your call manager and give those credentials. What I have done is I created a folder on my desktop, which is named as data. And this is where all my CMR or CDR records would be sent to this file or folder. So let me in fact delete all the files so they don't exist. So my folder is completely blank right now. There's absolutely nothing in that folder, but my FTP points to this directory. So all my logs would come in this folder. Now again, this is something that you should do for the purpose of billing, because again, what's the point of CMC? Even though your CDR would record, you need to send it somewhere so that you can look at those records or filter those records. You can still look at them through the GUI. So if I go to Tools, CDR Analysis and Reporting, I could look at them from here also, like a GUI view. But again, if you have like thousands of logs, it's easier to send it to an FTP server and then look at it in an Excel sheet. So it becomes easier to manage and filter. So a few things that you should enable. I'll do a quick repeat of things that you should do. The first thing that you should do is create client matter codes, unique client matter codes for each customer. Once you create that, go to your route pattern. Now in our case, I have done traditional dial plan demonstration in my earlier video. That's why my route patterns are traditional way. I have a separate one for local, one for national, one for international. I have not done globalization. Typically, you would have a single route pattern, which would be like a / plus bang. So in my case, I had 3 separate route patterns. And once I created my client matter code, I went to my route pattern and enabled the checkbox for require client matter code. Now again, that is something which is not enough. You still have to go to service parameter and enable CDR for all your call processing nodes. So you should enable it for all of them. The next thing that you should do is go to serviceability and define a secure FTP server, define a folder where all your CDR records would be sent, and then you can test your CMC. So let's in fact do this. What I would do is from my internal user, I have an internal user called Bruce Banner, who is a Jabber user. From Bruce Banner, I would make a national call. Let's say I was calling national. Would the call manager intercept the call and send you a tone back? No. Why is that? Because for national calls, for national route pattern, we never enabled require client matter code. We never enabled that. We only enabled it for local calls. So he would not ask me. Let me in fact show you that. So if I go back to Bruce Banner and dial national 91972-525-2222, which is a national call to site B PSTN. If I make this call, the call would go through directly. If you see, the PSTN is ringing and the call goes through. Absolutely no problem. Let me disconnect this. My call manager did not intercept anything and did not send you a tone back. So if I do make local calls now, yes, the call manager would not route the call immediately. He would first give you a tone back, asking you to enter the client matter code. I could enter 123, which is personal, or I could enter 456, which is for customer A, or I could enter 789, which is for customer B. So let's say I am making a personal call at this point of time. So if I go back here and say 95151111, and this is a local call. At the local call route pattern, I did enable require client matter code. I did enable that, which basically means that the call manager would basically intercept, send me a tone back asking, I need you to enter client matter code. Once I enter that, only then the call would be routed out. Now, one thing you really need to be careful about is how much time you take for you to enter the client matter code. It kind of waits for about 5 seconds tops. Again, you can configure this. There's a setting in the service parameter that you can change, but you really have to be quick in typing the code. Let me in fact show you that. So I would make an outbound call now again, and this time, can you see this? It's asking me for a code. Now I'm not going to enter anything. The call got disconnected, and I don't really see anything, or in fact the call got disconnected, and because I did not enter any client matter code. I believe you may not be able to hear the sound, but what I can do is maybe I'll enable the sound to show up in my RDP session. What we can do is, let's in fact go to my laptop and go to sound, and for output, let's go and select my output as my speaker, not my headset, so that you can hear the sound. All right, so let's try making a call again. So 9515-1111. So I believe, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it's basically asking me for a tone. And if you hear, I got the reordered tone back from the call manager because I did not enter the CMC. Let's now try making a successful call. I would enter the CMC 9515-1111. And I will enter 123. Let's say I was doing a personal call. So 123 and then pound. This time it routes the call to the PSTN. So once I entered the CMC code, which was 123, the call was routed. Again, you must type 123, the code, and then pound to end that code. Only then the call manager would route the call. Now, because I typed the code as 123, the call manager or the CDR would log this as a personal call. So let's go back to my FTP. If I look at my data, I should see like a log here for my records, and I can open this maybe in Excel sheet. I don't have Excel on this remote desktop machine, so it's not going to look pretty. If I open this in Notepad, it just looks kind of not nice. Excel would be a nicer way to look at it, but this is how you would log the entry. Or in fact, let me show you through the call manager. You should be able to see the CMC entered in the call manager. So if I go back to tools, let me expand my screen. So go back to tools, CDR analysis, and here I would go to CDR. Let's close this warning. So CDR search as per user or phone number. And let's put the phone number as 2002, which is Bruce Banner's Jabber phone. And let's do OK. I should see an entry here. So I dialed, I believe I dialed 91408-515-1111. I believe this is being expanded by my call manager, because maybe my cube must be configured to expand. Let's do a view. So if I click on view and let's search here for client matter code, you would see I entered client matter code as 123, which is for personal calls. So I made a personal call outbound. That's how my CDR is logging it. Let's try making a call to customer A now. So what I could do is, now if I dial again a local call, my customer A is a local customer, and if I make a call to him again, because my route pattern has the checkbox enabled, the call manager would send back a tone, and that tone would be basically asking me to enter the client matter code. This time I would enter the client matter code as 456, which is for customer A. So let's try that. So going back to my machine, and let's type 9515-1111, asking me for client matter code. Let's type 456 and pound. It routes the call to PSTN. Let's accept, and let me disconnect the call. And if I look back now, and let's go back, I should have one more entry. Again, my CDR log file would be sent to the secure FTP server in that folder, but I could look at it from the GUI at the call manager. Let's do OK. Again, I should see entry number 5, which is for my current call that I made. Again, give it some time. Just don't go at it immediately. It takes about a few seconds, maybe about 10-15 seconds for the record to show up. So let's do back. And let's research. Okay. So I still don't see it. Give it maybe a few more minutes. I should see an entry for that new call that we just made. Okay. I still don't have it. Let's go back. Let's wait for a minute. In the meanwhile, while it's coming in, let's go back to my call manager. I just want to point out one thing. Now, this checkbox that we enabled, client matter code, that can only be enabled at the route pattern level. You cannot enable that at the translation pattern. So it doesn't matter where the call comes from, whether it's coming in from the phone or it's coming from the translation pattern. But the enabling of it can only be done at the route pattern. So even if the phone calls and it hits the translation pattern and the translation pattern routes it to the route pattern, even then it can be triggered, but you cannot enable it at the translation pattern level. You have to enable it at the route pattern level. Let me show you by going to translation pattern. And I don't know if I have one. I do have one translation pattern. Let's click on that. And if you see here, I have no option to enable client matter code for the translation pattern. You can only enable that for route pattern, at the route pattern level. So going back at the route pattern, I do have the option to enable at the route pattern level. I did enable this for local calls. I did not enable it for national or international. So if you hit the national route pattern, the call manager would just route the call without asking anything from you. But if you hit the local route pattern, then yes, the call manager would intercept, send you a tone back, asking you to enter the client matter code, which is used to identify which customer you're talking to from billing perspective. Remember, client matter code is different from forced authorization code. Forced authorization code was for authorization. Client matter code is not authorization. It is only from perspective of billing, that how much time am I talking to a specific customer. So let's go back to CDR analysis and let's hit OK. I should see the fifth entry by now. We've given it maybe more than a minute or two. So we should see entry number 5. So for some reason, I don't see it. Let's try looking at this. And let's look at client matter code. This is the old one, 1 to 3. And let's go to the next page. So we are already on the last page. Let's try making a call again. Let me go back here and do an unall. Let's try making a call again. 9515-1111. And I would enter 456 as the code. So 456, which is customer A. Route the call, accept the call, and let's disconnect. Go back and let's verify if I see entry number 5. So I don't see it here. Let's look back at my logs. Maybe I see it there. Let's open this up. Again, it's going to look pretty bad, but we'll just quickly search for, let's do a search, find 456, if the entry exists. Or let's see, 1, 2, 3. This is the previous one. I don't really see anything. Oh, this is the CMR. I have to go to CDR. Let's go back and do a control F or edit find 456. This is not there. 1, 2, 3. So I'm not seeing an entry. That's kind of weird, but let's check one more. Four, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. So it looks like the logs did not come in for some reason. It just kind of froze. Let's go back and just completely refresh the whole page. I'll just remove this. Go back to CDR, search by user phone number, and let's add 2002 and do OK. All right, now I see the entry. I think it's kind of buggy that maybe the entry was there. It was just that I went back and I was searching again. Maybe it was caching the file or caching this page and showing it to me, Windows. So I just went back to navigation CDR and searched the user. And now I see some entries here. Entry number 5 and 6. Let's look at the 6th one. And if I see the entry, let's search for client matter code. I see 456. So you see, CMC is something which is, I don't really see a lot of companies using this. The industry that I know of, which probably would be using CMC, would be maybe a law firm or maybe a customer or maybe a consulting firm which needs to bill its customer for the time it is allocating or speaking to that customer. So maybe a law firm, maybe a consulting firm.